Alright, hello and welcome. I'm all ready to sculpt another model today. Today is going to be a Gnome Berserker. I'm gonna call her Barbarian so it's easier to search for her. But really cute thing about her is she's going to have a giant needle, like a sewing needle, as her weapon. So I'm really excited about this. I've had breakfast, I got my coffee, freshly showered, hair has been tubed, and we're good to go. Do some little checks really quick. Looks like we're good. Like usual, if you guys are having any issues, just throw them in the chat and I'll get troubleshooting. For the most part, things have been going pretty good. All right. I have this base mesh, as you can tell. Looks great. I have thrown on like these little shirt and these default masked out pants just for YouTube modesty. But we'll start with importing any assets I have in my asset library that are gonna be the most helpful. But first, I have a couple eyebrows here. I'm not sure why I have more than one. We'll go with the skinnier ones. Gonna merge these down. And I do not need 70,000 points for my eyebrows and eyelashes. All right, reduce those down. And we'll adjust her face and add some more personality to that later. All right. So right now I'm looking through all the pieces in my asset library and kind of seeing what's gonna fit best or match most nicely. If I don't have anything, I just sculpt it off from scratch. Am I not seeing any shirts here that I think would suit her really well? Honestly, this little crop top could do well as a nice base, and I can add some more detail and folds to that. Oh, here's my human base mesh. I'm not gonna need that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring in that shirt by going to append, and then I'll unify the shirt into the seam. That button is located under deformation. I have it pinned right here because I have a custom UI. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this little temporary shirt that I made and then fit this one to her body. I'm fitting it to her body by using 3D Gizmo and the move brush. Also using my favorite move brush trick, if you will, which is just using move with Alt held down. I use a Mac, so I'm actually using Option instead of Alt. There's no Alt button on Mac computers, but I used Windows for a very, very long time, so I still tend to say those hotkeys instead. All right, that's the only piece from here that I think is really gonna serve me any purpose. Next, I'm gonna see if I can grab something from my pants. I like the idea of having some flip-flops, maybe some wrappings. This is gonna be a steampunk-esque character, so. I also like these boots. I think these boots are really cute. I might do that and then do like a asymmetrical piece of leg armor on one side. Let's do that. And I'll make the buckles on these boots a lot bigger to get more of that steampunk look. All right, I'm just gonna throw that on her foot. I'm not gonna mirror it yet. And then I know I wanna grab one of these belts, even just as a placeholder. I like this one. So in addition to having this giant needle as her weapon, she's also going to have a musket on her hip. This request was put in by a patron. If you want to decide what I sculpt on my next stream, you can check out the link I have pinned, which is my Patreon. All legendary patrons can make a request every month. And that's pretty much my full-time job. That's what I do. I feel very lucky. I love what I do. Some days are harder than others. I had someone that asked for a dodo bird bard, and it ends up being one of my favorite models like ever. But it was a dodo bird based bard playing an upright bass. Whew, that model's tricky. Oh man, the coffee is coffeeing today, guys. It tastes especially good. Before I get too chatty, I gotta get through this base mesh here. People that tune into streams know I get on. I'm like that teacher that gets easily caught on tangents, and then suddenly I'm an hour into a story about my horse and some trip I went on last year. I'm like, I gotta do my job. I think these bracers right here look nice as well. If you're wondering why I can't just go straight back to this model and I click like 3 different pieces first, it's just because I can't remember what subtool I'm supposed to go to. You don't have to do that. If you just look at it for a second, you can go to the correct one. Outing myself. All right, I like these as well. But I do think I have some other bracers I might like better. But I like this little piece so much, and I know I can do a lot with it. So I'm gonna just throw it in here in case I want to build with it later. I'm just gonna stay here. All right, I think that's the last piece I want from here. We're almost done collecting from my asset library. Oh, I should give her hair. I don't think bald's gonna suit her. All right. Oh, hey, I think that's someone new. I call you Sai. Hello and welcome. How much planning do you do before sculpting? Needle, musket, hat, etc. And how much are you just going with the flow? Well, this one's a little different. I actually have a reference that someone put in that's pretty close to what they want. But for the most part, I'm just dealing with like a collage of references. Maybe they'll have one for the pose and one for the hair. And I just kind of go with the flow. It's a lot of going with the flow. Because even the reference that I have, like, I'm not going to go through and make sure I sculpt every piece. Like, she has a lot of different wrappings on her. But if I do all these, it's going to make her look kind of like a mummy, I think. And she's supposed to look more steampunk, so I'm going to be careful with that. To summarize my answer, because I kind of went all over the place, I go with the flow. I just make sure I know what race they are. Race, gender, and class. If I know if they're a paladin or a fighter or a ranger, I sculpt tabletop minis for Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, that kind of stuff. That can tell me a ton of information. So there you go. All right, I want her to kind of have like wild hair a little bit. I think this would be perfect if I make sure to take the time to make it longer in the back as well. I usually only use this hairstyle for men, but I think it's gonna suit her really, really well. If I remember correctly, I actually made this original hair mesh for a gnome as well, so it's kind of fun. Ooh, that hairline. All right, it's fine. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab a long hairstyle as well. I see if I can help splice them together. You know, I might want to give her a ponytail. We're gonna do that. All right, guys, that concludes the asset library gathering phase. And so now we actually have something that looks kind of like something. Something I like to do in my live streams is I always have something pinned at this top left here. And it's kind of like a work in progress. So if people tune in randomly, they can I have a habit of working very zoomed in. So it just gives some context. So that's our beautiful starting point. I'm gonna stamp that on my canvas by hitting Shift S. There we go. All right, guys, let's start working on this. I like that you asked a question, Sai. Anyone else that's lurking, feel free to ask as many questions as you want. Yeah, we're gonna do her hair first, and I don't think that these pieces are gonna help me. So I'm gonna split them off for right now. I'm going to hide the wild hairstyle, and I'm gonna focus on fitting the ponytail to her first. I made this hairbrush, or not hairbrush, but this hair mesh with a combination of just hand sculpting, having like a base blob that I detail, and using the Danny Mac hairbrush. His tools are fantastic, and by all accounts from his YouTube videos, seems like a really nice guy. So you should look up his art and his tools as well. All right. That's good enough. I'm gonna take a little bit of care to make sure it's not clipping through her ears. It's a little high on her forehead, so I'm gonna bring it down just a touch. And you'll notice I did this out of symmetry. I try to keep my hairstyles out of symmetry. It just makes them look a little more organic. All right, that's nice. And then again, I kind of want to have more of a wild look to her hair. So I have this other mesh that I have just sitting on top, and I want to see if I can fuse the two here. First thing I'm gonna do is find that like commonality point, which is going to be where the hair is actually splitting on her scalp. Just right here. All right. I'm also going to duplicate the ponytail so I have a new version I can work on, and I can smush this one around however I want. But if I decide that I end up not liking this, all I have to do is delete this one and then unhide the base mesh that's untouched. I love these curls. I think they're really cute. So I do this a lot where I'll make a base mesh for like the hair and then I'll kind of start Frankensteining them together to get new hairstyles. Over the years, that's worked really well for me. Obviously in the beginning, it took me a lot longer to finish anything because I didn't have anything that I'd already created to draw from. It takes a bit to have the skill level to where you're comfortable making meshes you actually want to reuse. But I always encourage my students to get into that habit as soon as possible. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click auto groups, which is gonna make all these strands individual pieces. And I'm gonna start deleting pieces that I don't think serve the blend here. So any of these curls are a little too wild or are not, they're kind of breaking the illusion that they're gonna fit back into her hair tie here. I don't mind if she has some short pieces on top sticking out. I think that's part of the personality. All right, she's looking a little mad scientist, which I love because she's going to be a Berserker or just a Barbarian. That's the class I'm gonna have her under. I'm gonna use Move Topological just to save me some time and let me grab just one strand of hair instead of many. Oh, just a note that my live stream schedule has changed a little bit this week. I will only be streaming on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday instead of Monday through Friday. And that's because Dragon Age Veilguard is coming out, which I'm immensely excited about. I don't normally take, days off work for stuff that's a video game release, but this one's a big deal for me, and I've been waiting for this game for a long, 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 long time. Very excited. That's kind of the perks of being your own boss too. I could just work ahead and take a couple days off. And then next week should be just back to normal, Monday through Friday. All right. As of now, the main thing breaking the illusion is just the fact that I have two different colors here. So I'm gonna go ahead and hide that ponytail or delete the ponytail that I had hidden because I don't need it. I'm going to hit Control W to group this bottom piece of hair together and then the top piece of hair together, and now I'm going to merge all of it. I end up not needing these other strands. All right, I still have Move Topological selected. I don't want that. Can we go back to Move? And then just add some more length to the framing layers on her face. That kind of caused a little bit of deformation here because it grabbed more than I expected it to. So I'll go back to Move Topological actually. Excuse me. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of moving all these little strands of hair down together. I'll go with the pinch brush and then also inflate. Now I'm gonna go back to Move so I can take all of this away from her face a little bit. And I also think that little curl section would look better if I pulled it down. Kind of a little closer to her eye. There we are. All right, her hair is kind of a hot mess, but in the best way. There we go. Super messy. I like it a lot. I might even tuck some tools into her hair tie. All right, let's change up her face a little bit. So I imagine this character have a pretty like playful personality, so I'm going to have that in mind as I work on her. I'm gonna give her a little bit more of an intense expression instead of like this perfect deadpan. Also gonna thin her eyebrows a bit. And I'm going to move her eyes up just a tad. That's kind of already a more interesting expression. And I'm gonna go through with Damn Standard and kind of like build up some more definition on like her nose, her lips, that kind of stuff. I always like to have Lazy Mouse enabled around 30. I like to put these deep grooves in here because everything I sculpt is to be 3D printed, and I call these little lines and stuff paint catchers. There we are. There we go, I think that looks much nicer. I want her somewhat muscly as well, since she's going to be a barbarian. So right now I'm kind of like outlining some marks on muscle groups I'm really familiar with, like her deltoids, her biceps, that kind of stuff. Giving a little more volume to some of these muscles, but really carefully. Looking good. I think it's already quite an improvement from our little pinned work in progress on the left here. All right, let's get sculpting on this shirt now. It's already a pretty darn good base mesh, so I'm gonna just subdivide a few times. Inflate. And I'm gonna think about what kind of texture I wanna put on this. I see on the reference I have a bunch of like wrappings. I think I might just put a noise modifier over this. Oh, I also should save because it's been a hot minute. I do have an autosave that goes off every like 3 minutes, but every now and then I like to drop a manual one. All right, I was thinking this kind of weave would be interesting on her shirt. So to do that, I went to Lightbox, Noise, and I picked one that I liked. Once I selected one, I'll go to Surface. You'll see that's why Noise is highlighted here. I think you can open it there as well. And I go to Edit. And that brings up the piece I'm working on. And the reason it's showing in the shirt is because that is what I had selected in my subtool menu. All right, I think a coarser mesh like that looks good. I'm not too worried about the deformation on the side. You can fix that. All you need to do is unwrap your UVs, and then you can place the seams on wherever you want, but I would probably put them on the side here. In this case though, I'm not too worried about that. It's a really, really small detail. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not sure how that's gonna affect my fabric folds. We'll play with it. We'll see what we wanna do. I don't want it too dense. I want to have a larger pattern like this so that way it's still nice and easy to paint. If it's super tight, it's just gonna look like a mess when it's 3D printed for a mini. I also wanna add a slight angle to it, one way or the other, just to kind of break the symmetrical look. There we go. I think that diagonal looks nicer. Much, much nicer. I'll click apply to mesh, see where that gets me. Not terrible. The reason why it's kind of pixelated here is because the strength is pretty high, so it's pulling through the mesh at a detail level higher than the amount of polygons I have. So I can do two things. I can increase the poly count or I can decrease the strength. I'm gonna decrease the strength just a touch. Something else I could do would be mask my noise instead. All right, we're gonna increase the poly count as well. There we go. But yeah, I could have also masked my noise and then kind of done it manually, but I didn't want to do that. I'm going with the smooth brush here to kind of clean up any rough artifacts. I like this shirt a lot. I think this looks really nice. Okay. I will add some structure to the shirt a little bit by adding some seams on the side here. I think I still have my groups. Yeah, so I'll just hide that. To repeat a stroke you just did, you can click number 1 on your keyboard. I use that all the time. Right now I'm just kind of freehanding like what looks like a stitch almost. This is just a super small detail on the side, so I'm not worried about this being a showstopper. It's just one of those places where when you rotate the model and you see it, you're like, oh, it's a nice bit of detail. Oh, I only did it on one side. Bummer. I had some symmetry turned off by accident. There we go. I have lazy mouse turned on. It's actually making this harder. I could just turn it off, but there we go. There we are. And now I'm going to add some small fabric folds. Even though it's kind of an odd texture, there still should be some tension on the shirt, but I might make the Z intensity on my standard brush a lot higher to make sure that this actually shows up. There should be some folds across the shirt here. That looks a little weird. It's a thicker material, so my folds are going to be fewer and thicker. You'll see that I'm kind of going back and forth between having symmetry turned on and symmetry turned off. There we are. All right, we've got a nice little, I don't know, woven shirt going on. That's gonna paint beautifully. We're gonna hide the belt for right now. We're also gonna hide these weird bracers I tacked on. And now we're gonna make the shorts. I already have them roughly blocked out. I did that by masking from the body and extracting at 0 thickness. And now I am ZBrushing with half turned on. If you are a student watching this live stream right now in the future, or live, but especially in the future, and you have questions, you can always message me and be like, hey, what did you do at this timestamp? Kind of weird crotch situation going on here. We're gonna use trim dynamic to clean that up. There we go. Kind of making some like these cute high-waisted shorts. But to have more of that steampunk look, it's not going to be too refined. There we are. It's looking a little diaper-esque. I will work on that as I shape them. I'm going to ZBrush by same. There we go. It's a bit nicer topology to work with than I had before. All right, let's get some details on these shorts. To do that, I'm going to go to close. My only problem with doing close holes is that when I have some of these pieces that are small, it doesn't give a ton of thickness to them, but I think I'm going to be okay with this one. Now I'm going to use the modeler brush and I'm going to kind of extrude some details here and some more structure. I'm going to do Q mesh for poly loop. Have a loop there, and we'll do some on the side for some seams. it's not wanting to go vertical. Oh, I don't want to do that. That looks like a chastity belt. It looks weird. Nope, remove. All right, we're gonna do crease, and then I'm gonna subdivide a few times, and then I'm gonna sculpt in some details by hand. I'm gonna be putting a lot of like belts and other details and layers on top of this, so I'm not worried about it being too incredible looking. All right, that's a good enough little layer of detail to get started with. And now we're gonna add some fabric folds. Her hands were kind of getting in the way there, so I just went to my custom UI here and turned on solo. What that does is it will only show the subtool you have currently selected. So you can see I'm kind of roughing out this like pleated texture on the hem here. And that's like my first step to roughing up the edge, because I want to make sure the edge actually kind of looks unhemmed. Now I'm gonna go in with Move Brush and do some manual pulls. I want to be careful that I'm not just pulling tiny little tabs and that there is actually some material behind there as well. Otherwise, they'll just be really fragile and they'll break off when 3D printed. Sweet. Looking pretty good. As my last step here, I'm gonna go with Dam Standard and Alpha, and I'm just gonna add a little bit more rough texture to the edges here. I'll probably also use this texture just gently stamped over the top, because when a material looks perfectly smooth like this, it can look a little odd. So I like to add some tertiary layer detail there. All right, looking pretty good. Gonna make sure her shorts hug her waist a little bit better. Usually I add like a button and other little details like that, but again, a lot of this is gonna be covered up actually. All right, let's go ahead and show that belt again. I'm inflating the entire belt by holding Command and pulling on this little yellow square. I forgot my colors for a second there. Hitting crease and then subdividing a few times. I see that not everything creased super nicely, and that's totally fine. I can do that manually, or I can just kind of nudge things around, because this doesn't need to be super visible right here anyway. There we go. Gonna make this belt much thinner. And I'm also gonna have it probably sit on her hips a little crooked. If I can make something asymmetrical, I usually do. Right now I masked the back of this belt here to bring it out. I could have just pulled it with the Move Brush, but I like to be really careful doing that. If you pull things around with the Move Brush too much, that's a really good way to make things look kind of lumpy. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna put it a little higher on her hip there and an even bigger tilt. Also making sure it's still snug to her body. Looking pretty good. Later on, I'll bring up my items asset library and then I'll start tacking on little bags and whatnot. I see some more people have joined the stream. Just kind of like, if you don't know me, hi, my name is Mia. My brand name is M3DM, but I sculpt tabletop minis for a living. What I actually sculpt is based on requests made on Patreon. And most people on Patreon are really into tabletop games, which is my specialty then. So all these are meant to be miniatures for like Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of stuff. If you want to know more about that, that's that link I have pinned in the chat. Or you just ask me questions while you're here. That works too. I love talking about what I do. I think it's really cool, and I've been doing it since 2019 now. 2020 really like full time, and I just love it. So right now I'm fitting these boots to her feet. I like to just put them totally upside down and turn off perspective, which is an orthogonal view. Turn on transparency and kind of fit these boots on. It's kind of fun, like I can actually see like the outline of her toes and stuff. All right. I see monkeys here. Hello. Speaking of tabletop goodness, Meditating Monkey has a lot of fantastic stuff as well. I highly recommend giving that a Google, which is really easy because Meditating Monkey. What a cool brand name. I got mine M3DM. It's short for Mia's 3D models, so M3DM. Most people will put emphasis on different spots, like the 3D in it or the DM part for Dungeon Master. And honestly, it works either way. All right, we're gonna mirror and weld these boots. All right. And then again, I mentioned I want these buckles to be a lot bigger. I'm gonna try to just make them larger and see if I like how that looks. I might not, we'll see. Okay, and usually I don't like doing stuff like this with symmetry turned on because it just makes them act silly, like it is right now. So we're actually going to just hide one of these boots entirely, delete it, and just work on it one at a time, mirror and weld at the end. There we go. And yeah, when I said bigger, I meant like much bigger. So it's gonna be a little more playful and a lot easier to paint. These are a little small. I tried to mute that sneeze. If it didn't work, sorry. I have like a super high-pitched mouse sneeze, so it's not the most pleasant thing to listen to, and it really gets picked up by the mic. Yeah, I hope y'all are doing good. Just having a good little time hanging out with y'all today. And I really, in the back of my mind, just a constant hum. I'm just like, Dragon Age Velguard's coming out in just a couple days. So excited. I've been completely blind to like news and like what people are thinking about the game. I followed it somewhat closely a few months ago. But as we get closer, you know, the hype train tends to turn a little negative, and I'm just gonna like the game, so I don't need to hear critical opinions of it. And I totally get where it's just like, oh, don't be a sheep or whatever. I'm like, I'm just gonna like what I like. So I'm probably not gonna watch any reviews on Velguard. I already bought the collector's edition, which I never ever do. My husband really pushed me to buy it because you know, it's more than $100. It's more like $200 for just like some goofy little trinkets and maps and stuff. I'm so excited. It comes in this week. Oh, that's actually my husband right there, Ricky Hoover. Probably laughing at my mouse sneeze. I think I muted it. It should have muted. All right. It's looking a bit better. I want the top to be a little more distinct from the rest of it. As of now, it's looking a little lumpy. So I'm gonna do a hard mask right here. I'm going to increase the size of just this top section to make it look like an intentional like flap, you know? I'm also going to invert the mask and pull this section in right here. I might re-export these boots with these modifications actually. They were already cute, but now, super cute. Yeah, another thing making this not as clear is the fact that there is not a divot on the inside. It's really low poly in here, as it should be. So that's why it looks kind of pixelated as I take that material down. There we go. That looks better. And I can even reform that to her leg. But having that gap there really helps, you know, sell the illusion that they're real shoes. To anyone that's just tuning in and you can see like this odd thing, that's just my work in progress. So every now and then as I make progress through my Sculpt Live, I like to make little stamps of my most recent progress. So that's where I started. That was my first landmark. We're probably about due to update that. Right, just bringing this in even further to really sell that look. There we go. I like it. I'm gonna go ahead and export these for myself later. There we go. Mirror and weld. Yeah, I think this is a pretty significant improvement from our first little stamp there. So I'm gonna clear that and then we're gonna put our newest landmark here. Looking pretty good. All right, let's keep working. What next? What next? It's actually going a bit faster than I'm used to doing it on live stream, which I'm really glad because I'm usually a really fast sculptor, but I have a hard time sometimes when I'm live streaming because I get caught up just chatting with y'all, and my brain just feels more full overall when I'm live streaming. Like there's a, you know, a focus or a hum in the background. But obviously I super enjoy it. It's been so nice to live stream again regularly. Haven't done this in well over a year. I don't think whatever structure I'm trying to put here is working. So we're gonna just not put it there. I don't think this piece matches this model. And just delete it. I do like this, however. I might even just tuck this in. Kind of like a very interesting tall sock. I don't know who would want buckles on their socks, but hey, who knows? Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. I think I want these to be a little more pointed on top. Probably because I'm like, she's a gnome. I like the more elfy looking shoes. Sai asks, do you worry about how things will print while you sculpt? Gaps in the shoes got me thinking. And I do pay attention to that. And I'm looking at the shoes again I always like to review when people ask questions. I'm not super sure which gap you're talking about specifically. Like this gap, like between like her body. That's no issue at all because this is all solid. Now if I had like a buckle that was sitting like here, that would be a problem. Even like right here, that would be an issue. But everything's touching. No issues here. This buckle got a little goofed up. Something that I can do at the end, I usually do once everything's all posed and stuff, I'll make sure I do my checks that everything is looking good and 3D print ready. And when I do that, I can close up gaps really easily by having move and back face mask. I'll show you guys a demo of that right now. So pay attention I'm gonna drag from left to right. So it's gonna move a bunch of material just to the right. See what's happening there? Wham. So before, after, before, after. I have to be careful because obviously it's gonna add material on the other side as well. But for the most part, just be gentle with it. And it's a really, really good tool. Also, I've sculpted over 800 models. Well, I've released over 800 on Patreon. I've probably sculpted over 1,000 at this point. At some point, you've printed, I print everything. You've printed so many, you've sculpted so many, it's kind of like this autopilot check that you're always doing of how things are gonna look and how they're gonna print. I used to test print all my stuff because I was concerned it wouldn't print and I needed like the confidence boost and I was just learning. Now I print all my stuff because I like to see it on my desk. And we also like taking pictures of it for like promotional material. But it's not actually like a check to make sure we know it's gonna print. I can't remember the last time we had a print fail. I know my husband's hanging out in the chat. He might have an answer to that. And to be clear, we'll have print fails because like we should have leveled the bed or that kind of stuff, or maybe it was too cold in the shop. Temperature can affect resin prints, as it can affect FDM prints, obviously. But for the most part, as far as having to re-sculpt a model because it had sculptural issues that were causing 3D printing issues, no, I haven't had that in goodness. Probably not since 2020. And it also helps that 3D printers just keep getting better and better, which kind of permits some sculpting buffoonery. You can really get away with a lot more. So right now I'm going to push these forms a little bit more. I think her shirt's cute, but I think it'd look better if it was even more structured. I like these curves and bends I have right here, so I really want to emphasize those. I'm going to shorten up her ponytail here because I think it looks a little funny right now. I'm using transpose line to scoot that up. I alternate between the transpose line and 3D Gizmo pretty frequently. There we go. And it really just depends on what I'm trying to move or deform, whether or not I use the transpose line or 3D Gizmo. If I'm trying to do a smooth organic change, I will use the transpose line. If I'm just doing a large shift, like a purely translational movement or rotation, I like using the Gizmo. Yeah, I think this little like curly short ponytail is cute. Her hair is a hot mess. How fun is that? That's gonna be fun to paint. Yeah, you're asking good questions, Sai. Feel free to keep asking. Yeah, I don't think this strand is being helpful. So we're gonna just push that in. And then I'll do myself a favor now and I'll grab these little, ZBrush crash. I'm gonna grab those little pieces of hair that weren't sticking to her face and tuck them in. Just a reminder to sip my coffee. Fine with me. This is why I have my obsessive quick saves, y'all. And there you go. I lost 0 progress. Beautiful. There we go. Make sure it's touching her face. Also squeeze that in, touching her face. And I'll probably take these strands and just drag them down to her collarbone. I don't mind having short strands right there for detail. These strands right here. but they either need to be like much shorter. I don't like having tiny gaps between anything when I 3D print. It either needs a touch or very much so not touch. Otherwise, it's really hard to fit in supports. I'm actually going to add one more subdivision level to this hair up here because it's being a little funny. There we are. That's better. Gosh, that hair is so fun. What a mess. I love it. I used to have really, really short hair in high school. And I mean like just this top piece right here. It was that short. I have really curly hair. So it actually looks a lot like this. And when I was growing it out, it did not grow out like super evenly because I have layers. And so I kind of had a ponytail and a hairstyle that looked like this for a while. Yeah, most of my life I've had really, really short hair. This is the longest I've had it, goodness, since I was like probably tiny, like 5 or 6 years old. All right, I'm gonna decimate this down pretty good because I don't need just 2 million points sitting on top of her head. Having a really good time hanging out with you guys. Before I started the stream, everything was fighting me. It was like the mic didn't want to start, and then I have a TV that's on the wall right here. I have this. It's like if you go into YouTube, it's like a lo-fi jazz cat or something. It's like this black cat sitting in a pool of water and just like vibing. Anyway, the internet for that wouldn't connect. It was just like a bunch of like silly little technical problems, and it's feeling a little crabby. But the stream has really gone well, and I'm now feeling in the zone. It's very nice. All right, that's much lower poly. I'm gonna go ahead and take this hairband into its own piece so I can adjust that as well. Also going to decimate her hair by about half, and by decimate, I just mean I'm reducing the poly count. So I had 200,000 points, and now I have 100,000 points. So if I zoom in, okay, this looks the same. Essentially, just trust me that, see all these triangles and shapes that you're seeing? There's now half as many. And it's like, well, why would you care about that? Well, the less polygons you have, generally speaking, the easier it is to manipulate your mesh and handle it. Also, if I just have way too many polys on here, even though ZBrush is really adept at handling high poly counts, it can just kind of like unnecessarily bog down the program. I'm nowhere near that. I like things being tidy. I say with like the most abysmal topology. If you're a 3D artist, just know in 3D printing, I swear it doesn't matter. And I only have clean topology when I'm like constructing things. And then once the shape is set, I can just forget about the topology. I can dynamesh and decimate to my heart's content. Obviously, if I ever want to rig it or do anything other than 3D printing, it would need a good amount of love and care. All right, I'm gonna regroup all this together, merge them into one subtool. And that's why you see separate colors here. We have that purple ponytail, yellow hairband, and orange top head. You know, top hair. The reason I do that is because now I can hit Command Shift. If I click, I can actually isolate each one of these pieces at a time. So, pretty nifty. I could leave them as separate subtools too, but I like to keep this pretty clean. I was one of those people that complained for years. I'm like, oh, I wish ZBrush had folders. And now it does, and I never use them. Cracks me up. It's a feature I really thought I wanted, but I kind of came up with a workaround a while ago. So now that I have the feature I want, not too big of a deal. It's also why I cut gaming developers so much slack when they do or they don't add features the community is requesting. Because honestly, sometimes as the user, like, you might think you know what you want, but not always the case. Obviously, it doesn't go for like bug fixes and patches. We would all like if our games just ran and didn't crash and bug out. All right, let's keep adding pieces, shall we? I'm gonna bring in my items asset library, which is my biggest one so far. Hey, someone's new here. Hello. I think it's Shu-san. I will call you Shu. It'd be nice if she wore earrings. I agree, I think that'd be nice. You know, I know a lot of people that design minis for 3D printing because they're gonna be this big. They don't add tiny details like that, but I like adding earrings and rings and stuff, and you can't see them when they're 3D printed. They're just a little, they can be a little fiddly to paint. Her hair is so blobtastic, it does totally cover her ears, but I'll keep that in mind, especially at the end if I think she needs a little something. All right. I know for sure I want to start adding some pieces on here, some bags, that kind of stuff. I like this one a lot. And these are all pieces that I have sculpted in the past, and I put them into one big library. If you're wondering why this one is so thick, it's because I usually will just scoot it all the way through the body. Obviously thin this up a little bit, but that's also a 3D printing reason. I want it to be as connected as possible. It doesn't matter how far it extends into the body because I'm gonna remesh it at the end anyway. There we are. One little back there. I think I'd like to have something on her shoulder, a backpack as well. I do want her to be more steampunk-esque. I'm resisting the urge to just tack on this stopwatch. I put that on like all my steampunk characters, so I'm resisting. She's a Berserker, but so maybe I'll put some more daggers and that kind of stuff on her hip. I know I want to have a musket on her hip as well. So you know what I'll do? I'll actually go into my tools and load in my weapons Z tool and see if I have a, I don't know if I have sculpted a musket before. Oh, that looks pretty good. That's pretty close to what I'm wanting. Okay. And then obviously the sewing needle I'll probably have to sculpt from scratch. I don't think I have one of those laying around. Yeah, shorten that up a bit. Yeah. It's a little wobbly. This is probably an older mesh that I had made. But since this isn't going to be the focal point of the model, I'm okay with it. I say that now, but I might just resculpt it. We'll see. Oh, hey, Pat Named Friends is back. Hello. Having assets like that is a really clever idea. Yeah, hello, hello. Thank you. I really enjoy doing that. I saw you follow me on Twitter, so I checked out your stuff. It's very cool. Saw that you're in Canada, which I always think is cool. Just seeing, I live in the United States, so seeing anyone that's, I don't know, somewhere different is really cool to me. All right. Right now I'm gonna go with H polish and see if I can clean this up a little bit. If I find that I'm sculpting and trying to clean this up too much, I am just gonna remake it. Yeah, let's see. Thanks for the follow back. Yeah, of course. I always like following fellow creators. Anyone else hanging out in the stream can see their username and Google it. They're another really cool creator. I encourage checking them out as well. Brent says, yeah, I'm up on the East Coast. Very cool. So right now I'm just making this little nib here thicker. It's looking a little eh. Again, if I fiddle with this too much longer, there's gonna be a re-sculpting happening. Mucky says, creator hangout today. Yeah, no kidding. What a good time. Which I know a lot of you guys probably use ZBrush and are creative, so especially ask questions. I'm happy. I have no secrets here. Happy to share techniques, whatever. Sai says, watching from England, UK. Oh, really cool. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. I don't even think about it, you know, until people, you know, obviously say where they're from. I just assume you guys are all from the United States. I like the visual of it too. Like I don't know. I think of the globe in my head and I can drop little pinpoints where you guys say that you're at. The internet can be a really cool thing sometimes, you know? I also live in a pretty comfortable little internet bubble. I'm very happy in my corner of the internet. All right, happy with the musket on her hip. I do think it should be wider. So I'm gonna click and drag my gizmo, try to square it off the best that I can, and widen. We're gonna hide this piece though. Yeah, this musket needs some love, but overall it's doing just fine. All right, there we go. I said if I kept fiddling with this, I'd sculpt a new one. And I'm about at my limit before I make myself do that, so I'm gonna leave it alone. All right, let's grab some daggers and stuff too to put on our hip. Right now I'm kind of just doing a quick overview of all of them, making sure I'm picking the one I like the most. And I'm going to pin these daggers just to that little bag I put on her other hip. Alright, that's pretty nicely closely tucked in there. And now I can go to the bag, hit auto groups, because I always keep these separate pieces. And I can kind of pull the strap around to make it look like it's holding the dagger. It's a really small detail, but I find it's one that's usually quite worth it. Speaking of, this piece needs to shorten up or go away. Is that really not its own piece? Okay. I'm just surprised it's not auto masking. Because I can grab it with my brush. Come on. go away. And mask it and shorten. There we go. There we go. I wanted that to be more distinct. All right, got a dagger tucked in there. I like it. I might even see if I can squeeze in a second one behind it that's much smaller without looking like nothing. There we go. Very nice. I want to give her a shoulder pad of some sort or something that can put across her chest. She's a cool model, but she doesn't have a whole lot of direction still as far as like, no, she has all the direction. She doesn't have the last bit of pizzazz. There we go. Now I'm scanning these right now because I'm going to be sculpting a sewing needle, which I think would just be best to do from scratch. But I'm kind of looking at these first. Yeah, I'm just going to sculpt the sewing needle from scratch. I like grabbing this chest that I made a long time ago because it has these metal straps on it. And if you look on a lot of my characters, I have this exact chest tucked away because it just fits so well to like, I can just like pin this right on the back of her belt. Just like this nice tiny little detail. There we are. There we go. Just a nice little treasure chest. I tend to paint it the same way on all my characters too, and in my head I like to think it's the same treasure chest and they're all in the same campaign. It gets passed down through different stories. There we are. Alright, looking nice. Are there any more little pieces from here that I can utilize? I don't think so, but now that I'm looking at her hair too, I think I want to tuck in like a bandana or something like that. Monkey says, it's a tiny little treasure chest of holding. Yes, yes, that's exactly what it is. Oh, I think I'd even like to have this telescope tucked into the back of her ponytail. That might be cute. Or it might look like nothing. I'm not sure. Let's try it out. Usually this works for like a high bun, not like a low bun like this, so I don't think this is gonna work. No, this is not gonna work. But I wanted to try. I can put it on the other side of her bag though. Yeah, I'll leave that right there. And then I will grab this other strap and pull it over to grab this telescope as well. There we are. All right, I think we're all done with this. And let's sculpt that needle. To do that, I'm going to turn, I'm going to hide all my other items, and then I'm going to go to initialize and create a cylinder. There we are. Taylor says the stopwatch, and then Pat named Prince says the feathers. Yeah, I thought about, oh hey Taylor, I thought about the stopwatch. I put that on like all my steampunk characters, and it makes me not want to fit it on this one. I don't know. And then feathers. I like the idea of feathers. I don't want to get too tribal, but that might work really well too. And I'm going to do this sewing needle and I'm going to think about other little pieces. Again, so the sewing needle is going to be huge and oversized. That's going to be her weapon. And she's supposed to be a berserker. So that's why I kind of have minimal clothing and this like kind of crazier hairstyle. I like the tips, I like the ideas, so keep them going. Sai says, imagine if each treasure chest holds the university campaign that came before it. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And then like, if I did have a group I played with regularly, I would probably sculpt a tiny difference on each of the treasure chests to be like a nod to the campaign that we had just done, you know? Like maybe a different, almost like hieroglyphic that was stamped on that belt that goes around it. Really, really cool. You guys are so creative. I appreciate you guys sharing your creativity with me. All right, so now we're making a needle. This is gonna be pretty easy, I think. This top piece here is going to be a loop, and there's already a default loop in ZBrush. This ring, quite helpful. Oops. All right. Okay, come on ZBrush, relax. It's like not wanting to shrink this. There we go. And the knitting needles, it's more of a kind of like a soft triangle. Oh, fun fact, I've been teaching myself how to crochet. I am crocheting a penguin right now. It's part of those like little pre-made kits. They're called woobles, which they're extremely cute. And yesterday I kind of had like my breakthrough where I actually figured out like it all started to come together. It's not just me trying to do the same stitch over and over again. I was actually able to watch like a TV show and get some work done on it. So it's been a lot of fun. I do love, again, that you guys picked out items that were on the asset library that you could see. Like, I just think it's cool that there's lots of eyes on the same thing and you guys were like shopping and browsing for different pieces to put on this model. I really like that. I can definitely see incorporating that in the future. Maybe having you guys like pretty much help me sculpt the model from scratch. I think that'd be really cool. I could see doing that, maybe like a totally free-form live stream. I actually think that's a really good idea. I'm gonna sleep on that. So again, I'm making a knitting needle, or not a needle, but like a sewing needle. It also needs to be 3D printable, so you're gonna see me toying with the proportions and how thick to make this a lot. There we go. It's got a point on it now. Being very careful though. Where's my phone? All right, really quick, I'm gonna pull up sewing needle. I'm gonna make sure I like wrap some thread around the top of it too. All right, got the basic shapes here, and now let's start making it look more accurate. Again, the connection here is really big, and I'm aware of that. I need this to hold up. I'm gonna zero mesh this quite a few times to get rid of this kind of lumpy look that's going on. There we go, that's better. And then I'm also going to add some threads we kind of wrapped around towards the top. Which I've never, like, I actually have a decent amount of sewing experience. I don't know why I'd ever have this. It'd only be a thread that just goes through, you know, the eye of the needle. Maybe I'll double up that thread, but I would never do what I'm about to do now. But it makes it look like a decoration, so we're doing it. And then Taylor says, how do you know how thin an area should be with 3D printing? I'd be concerned about that. I was very concerned about it in the beginning, and then I made almost 1,000 models, so like, I know this isn't a great answer, but it's pretty much on autopilot. You pretty much, you sculpt something, you print it, and it sucks, and you're like, I'm not gonna do that again. Repeat 800 times, and then you get pretty good at it. Now, a better answer is, you have a reference marker, so I know when I print this character, her eyes and her eyebrows are gonna be visible, so I know how much detail I can have. And I also know if I take my fingers, like that's how big a mini is, I will literally take my fingers and put them on my screen, and I will zoom out the model to where it matches, and then I'll kind of look at it and be like, okay, how fragile does that look? So that's actually about accurate. I know that this will 3D print, no problem. This I will thicken up a tiny bit from just the back side, and that'll be a-okay. Good question though. So right now I'm going to kind of make these little zigzagging pieces. Which is pretty much going to be like a thread that's tied on, and also is an excuse to add more material. All right, looking good. I'm gonna ZBrush this one more time with half, see if I like that. I do like that a little better. Okay, and then let's get an actual tip on the needle. Looking good as well. I'm gonna do move and back face mask and just scoot on back here. Taylor says, a bundle of yarn maybe coming out of the chest would be pretty. Ooh, yes it could. I might do that. I like that a lot. That's a really, really good idea. All right, ooh, before I add too many subdivisions here, actually I'm gonna remove all of them really quick because I'm just realizing I might actually want to keep this needle. This is cute. In case you're seeing this, you're like, is she really gonna add a piece of free-flowing thread that's gonna hang off with us? Yeah. Is that gonna be really fragile? Probably. I'm gonna see if I can make it work, because I just think it'd make it look so nice if I had this. I also think I should actually thread it through the needle. Let's see. Oh yeah, I can make this work. Yep. I've never sculpted a ball of yarn before. I wonder how I'd get that texture without, like, you know, manually having to weave a string all the way around it. Baby sculptor Mia would be like, oh, just grab a damn standard brush and carve it in there. It doesn't look as good. Which is funny because I actually tried to do a similar technique to that on a penguin that I sculpted last week. And it didn't work. But luckily I have the skill set now where I know to use a right mesh and that kind of thing. Cool. I like it. This is really cute. All right, I'm going to polygroup each one of these to themselves, and I'm going to merge it all together. And last, I'm going to export it so I have this in the future. Lovely. That's a nice little sewing needle if I say so myself. Do I put this under weapons or items? I guess I'll put it under items in my asset library. Item, sewing needle. There we are. That looks really, really nice. That's about how big it's gonna be. Like, she's gonna have this giant sewing needle as her weapon. I feel like she should just have like a giant ball of yarn on her in general now. Right now I am merging a couple pieces here because I'm getting quite a few subtools. I don't need these to be separate pieces. That's all the same, like this is all the same little blob. I'm gonna tuck this gun further back on her hip. There we are. Probably should add a holster of some sort. I can look at that later. And I also think her style would look quite well with a bandana. I do have one that's already somewhat sculpted. Let me see if that fits well. If not, I'll just make a new one from scratch. Yeah, this bandana here, and I might even put a new little sewing needle in that too. Just take this big one and shrink it down. Again, she has this really cute hairstyle, so I don't have to adjust it too much. But I think tucked behind these bangs here might be really cute. Or it just might not read terribly well, so I'm gonna be careful with it. It might just look like she has a big bald spot. And we don't want that. I actually think these side curls right here are a little too crazy, so I'm actually going to delete these. Or I'm going to hide them. I'll wait on actually deleting them. Again, I like the crazy hair, but I don't want mad scientist. It's a fine line to walk. Yeah, I like the hair. I'm going to keep this little hat on here. I think it's very cute. So I'm deleting any curls that I think are too distracting. Taylor says, a bundle of yarn rolled up in her hair like Princess Leia. Oh, that'd be cute. Like just one on the side? That's cute. Thinking about it. Thinking about it. You're on fire today. These are some really good ideas. First, I'm going to see if I want another needle in the back of her hat right here. Or not hat, but bandana. I think that's cute. I also don't think it reads super good because this is so big, but I can fix that very easily. Very cute. Come together pretty nicely. We're at the hour-and-a-half mark, and I'm about done with my coffee, so I'll probably take a break in the next 20 minutes or so. I'm still thinking about this bundle of yarn, y'all. Thinking about putting one on her. If I can, what she really needs right now is like something on her shoulder or her back. So, thinking about that. Also need something on her hands. I might just put a bunch of knitting needles right here, kind of like a Wolverine-esque. We'll see. I like this knitting needle. I made a lot, so it's gonna get put everywhere. Cute. I really like that threaded right there. I'm gonna put another smaller one right next to it. There we are. Cute. Very cute. Awesome. I like checking the base mesh. It's a website where it has a bunch of like just, you know, which is what sounds like base meshes. I'm seeing if they have a ball or yarn that is I'd like. They have a volleyball. Because I'm trying to figure out how I'd get that like wrapped texture. I think it's gonna be more work than it's worth. And that's okay. Got a lot of really good stuff going on already. I really like her little hat and bandana. Man, this character is getting so detailed. All right, looking good. I don't think I'm gonna do any shoulder pauldrons, even though I was thinking about it, because I still want this like more barbarian look. I think her shorts don't need to be a bit shorter. They're kind of in that weird in-between capri length almost. That's better. Not even a whole lot shorter. Right now I'm starting to pay really close attention to her silhouette. I don't like this buckle on here a ton, and I know I have some better looking ones, so I'm gonna put a better buckle on here. Taylor said maybe a yarn fishnet covering her stomach. Ooh, that's a really good idea. I'm gonna try that out. Let me get this buckle on here. What is a steampunky buckle? I guess really any of these. It's funny how much replacing a buckle will improve a design. All right, let me make sure I tuck this back portion in so it's functional. Or wait, no, it would go. All right, and I know exactly what mesh I can use here. So I'm gonna duplicate the body right now, so I have another one to work with. And then thinking, gonna mask her belly, invert. I think I can apply noise just right here, and I know what noise would look like this. This one. Trust the process. I know it's looking real. It's gonna happen. I think I should be able to mask by noise, and maybe we can get a result here that we're gonna like. Let me subdivide the body again. Yeah, I guess I don't have to mask the area. I can just do it manually like this. Might want to make it a little bit smaller. Either way, I'm having a lot of fun with this, trying this out. Especially because this one I kind of had a stronger idea of how I'd go about doing it. So it looks absurd right now, but we're making progress. I'm trying something out. I'm also gonna help ZBrush out here, and I'm gonna cover up some of the mask. There we go. 0.0025. I usually don't extract the thickness, but in this case, I think it's gonna help. Oh, wrong way. There we go. All right, we have that texture now. Let's see if I can soften it up a bit to make it look more like a tube. Oops, I don't want symmetry on. Oh, it masked her belly button too. That's funny. There we go. I'm gonna inflate it. ZBrush a few more times. Man, this stream's been going real smooth. I had a couple of technical difficulties last time, but not this time. We're going real nice. Well, even if this isn't a perfect execution of what you had in mind, Taylor, I mean, it's a really cool tool that I really just haven't used in a long time in this way. So I'm kind of, this is just cool. Like, I should do this more to add tertiary or secondary forms to my models. What do you guys think about this little like kind of fishnet thing I have over her stomach now? I like it. I think it's really cool. And I haven't detailed it or anything yet. I would have never thought of that. Being totally honest. Like trailing off, because I'm like, that's cool. I want to do that more, where I put noise modifiers on like the body and I can get these really detailed, complicated forms that are, you know, form fit at the same time. Really cool. I really need to find more noise modifiers to put in ZBrush. I've always used the defaults. I'm actually not really sure how to put new noise modifiers into ZBrush. I know I've done it before because I've used it with a brick texture once, but I quickly replaced that that technique with just with array mesh. So right now I'm playing with this a little bit more still. I'm continuing to ZBrush and inflate, ZBrush and inflate. I'm doing that to get more of this rounder look on it. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that. Here we go. It tends to not like going over the sides. And I mentioned earlier in the live stream, you can fix that by using a UV map. All right, now I'm gonna play with seeing if I can sculpt details to make this look like it's overlapping or not. I'm not really sure how to do that. Let me think here. I can just pick like a dominant strand, like this one. I'm actually not sure how fishnet is woven, so I'm trying to think of that right now. Because it might be alternating over, under, over, under. That'd make more sense, because it would be woven then. So that's on top. So now it's gonna be below. Oops, other way. So now this one's gonna be on top. that one's on top. This one's kind of a weird intersection, so that doesn't matter. That one's on top, so now this will be below. Picking it up, I'm getting it. Kind of does look like yarn crisscross. I actually did a good job figuring out which one would go on top and below and that kind of stuff. I do want to see if I can Z-remesh that to make it, because it's a little lumpy. But I'm worried if I Z-remesh it, it's gonna just destroy the creases I just made. We're gonna find out. I like this idea a lot too, because the fishnet modernizes a little bit, which gets me closer to that more steampunk look I'm angling for. It did not want to Z-remesh this. Do not break it. Oh, I had same turned on, that's why. So it didn't really change a ton. Let's do it again. It's thinking about it. Just gonna give ZBrush a moment. This is a really good way to make it crash, is if you rush it when it doesn't want to be rushed. All right, it's not super doing the smoothing effect that I want, which is fine. I think if I just do a nice uniform inflate, that will also help. Okay, polish is definitely not the way here. And some wobbliness is good. It's gonna keep that more organic texture. Looks like the top of a pie crust as well. All right, I think that's really cool. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna decimate it pretty low. See how it's gonna look. There we go. Kind of pie crust-esque. I like it. Spent a little more time on that than I probably needed to. I love finding stuff that I know is going to be a new and helpful technique. So I really wanted to play that through all the way. Excellent. That's a nice little bit of detail. Speaking of, I do have a little section of net that I'm gonna pin to her hip, I believe. I have some knots over here too, I like that. Just to lean in with this like sewing theme we have going on here. I was gonna do the net, but I don't want it to be too bulky. This is like a sailor's knot or something. I just think it'd be cool to have a couple of these pinned. Just at the ready. All right, we're finally getting that real steampunk look, y'all. Excellent. That's what I wanted. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and replace our screenshot with this one because we've made a ton of really good progress. Also gonna crease and divide that needle later on, but not quite yet. All right, there we go, got a new stamp. Very cool. All right, it's been a hot minute. About 2 hours, so I'm gonna take a little 5-minute break here, grab some water, and I'll be back. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's been a really good time. I highly encourage you guys to subscribe because I do this all the time. It's fun to hang out. If you have any questions, leave them in the chat. I'll answer them when I get back. And I also have a pinned comment on here that links to my Patreon. That's why I'm able to do this for a living. And if you want to decide what I sculpt in my next stream, you can do that. I sculpt legendary requests in every single stream. All right, I'll see you guys soon. welcome back. Yes, welcome back to me. Thank you guys for waiting. Had a really good little break. Got some water, rehydrated. And my music is really too loud in my head. There we go. All right, well, I'm really happy with how she's looking. And we're about ready to pose here. That's why I have kind of like the same thing stamped twice, because I like to kind of stamp on my screen like a work in progress or a milestone that's been reached. And we reached that milestone. Really happy with this. I have a pretty good pose in mind. I'm not sure how easy it's gonna be to execute, but I'm excited about it. So let's get rolling, shall we? All right, got my reference pulled up. It's kind of a tricky pose, and I only have a reference from one angle, but let's see. The first thing I do before I start prepping to pose is I run through all my subtools and make sure that they're somewhat organized. And that's more so for my brain, because when you go to Transpose Master, it doesn't matter. It just merges into one. Sai says, the sculpt looks fire. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I feel really excited about it too. This is my favorite parts about live stream, is that you guys get to see it go from, you know, 0 to hero in real time. And it's exciting for me no matter what, but I will say sharing it has definitely been, it makes the whole experience more fun for me too. All right, let's get this all buttoned up, shall we? All right. So I know obviously your hair is all gonna move together, so I'm gonna polygroup these and merge them down into one piece. That way when I'm posing, I don't have to keep selecting her hair over and over again. And that's why I'm gonna put her eyebrows and her eyelashes temporarily merged to her head as well. This would not work if I was working with multiple subdivision levels with any of them. I can always reconstruct them later if I want to, I just don't usually. Same with her belt. I'm gonna put all her little knickknacks merge onto her belt, but I'm gonna take the extra second to polygroup them. To polygroup them, all I'm doing is hitting Command W. In case you're wondering what polygrouping means, if I hit Shift F, you see all these different colors. Each color is a polygroup. If I hit Auto Groups, you see that there's now a rainbow of colors. I can even select this little nib right here. And I don't want that. I want to be able to easily select entire pieces. I don't need to be able to select just a little nib at a time. All right, looking good. I'm excited about these little like sailor knots I pinned to her. It's making her look a little piratey, but I'll be able to use them to really make her pose look more dynamic and convey movement. The ankle straps, I would like to merge to her body, but that I am working with multiple subdivision levels, so I'm gonna leave that as is. Okay, I have 2 bodies right here. I don't need that. Sweet. All right, we don't have that many subtools. It's gonna be pretty nice and tidy to work with. I am gonna import a fist because she will be holding the needle weapon. Briefly looking at all of these little pieces in here in case I want to grab one. No, we're good. So there are a lot of creators hanging out right now and lurking in the stream. Love that. If you are working on something right now and you have a moment, I'd love to know what you're working on. But if not, feel free to lurk in peace. I know, I kind of do the same thing. I'll put on live streams of other artists. Like usually they're painters though, a lot of digital painters. And I'll just kind of put on my work and hang out with them while they work too. It's a little like a little art party. So I'm kind of laying this fist on top. I'm going to mask just this hand and I'm going to squish it down. The reason why I'm not deleting it entirely, even though that'd be easier, is because you can't do that with multiple subdivision levels. I mentioned subdivision levels quite a bit, if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about. Subdivision levels are what allow me to go from this like super pixelated look to the super high res look. Hey, Bill's here. Hello. Currently working on a veteran vampire hunter. Oh, that sounds sick. Taylor says, I'm working on sticky viscous paste Houdini simulation. Very cool. Patnate Print says, I love you guys. Patnate Print says, I'm working on a sloth druid for my 5-year-old. She wants to paint it. And Monkey is doing a layout for magic item cards right now. Just a bunch of boring copy pasting of words. Still really cool. Check us out. This is like a full like creator party. Man, I love that. So I'm gonna kind of do something I don't normally do here, but it's very important to me to be able to connect with other creators. Taylor's already sent me an email about possibly doing some work together, which I just love. Monkey, you always know how to get a hold of me. But for Bill and Patnate Prints, anytime, feel free to, you can either, I think my email is on my YouTube account. It's m3dmprints@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. You guys have been around a couple times already. I know I like you guys. And I haven't seen your work, Bill, but I'm sure it's fantastic. If you guys ever want to collaborate or do anything fun, let me know. I'm always down. And especially seeing so many creators hanging out doing like, you know, we're all in like the same genre too. I always think that'd be fun. I didn't expect literally every one of you to share what you're working on. That is so cool. Alrighty, this is looking pretty good. Let's get this pose rolling, shall we? And I actually haven't dropped a hard save yet, so let's do that. Gnome, Berserker. Bill says, thank you, I appreciate that. Absolutely. I am huge on highlighting other creators. I'm a firm believer that there's plenty of room at the table, so to speak. I remember one time I was watching a stream of a ZBrush sculptor that I really admire, and I was so frustrated because someone in the chat asked her like, hey, how do you do this? Or how do you render? And she got all cheeky and just like, oh, it's a secret. And I was just like, okay. And a lot of people in the chat, you know, defended her and like, you know, along the lines of like, she worked hard to find that technique or something, but I don't know. It's not my favorite. To be clear, like, if any random stranger asked me for like a shout out, like I'm not gonna do that, but I don't think you guys are strangers, and I let you guys hang out with me. It's part of the little art family. Dell says my Patreon is Lost Heresy if you're interested. Heck yeah, I am. I'm gonna look that up right now. Little detour. Bam, I found it. Yeah, you do 3 printable minis just like I do. Very cool. Oh, your stuff is cool. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, we gotta do something. Hey, you promoted Bay Victus. Aren't they cool? They're such good people. They've been around this for a long time. Looks like so have you. But they've always just been like super nice in the community. Like them a lot. Yeah, your stuff is cool. I don't really do stuff like this, so that'd be a good collaboration for us to share a piece, vice versa. I know I have some people that are looking for more traditional minis like this. Very cool. This is actually kind of similar to what Taylor messaged me about. Taylor, I'd encourage looking at this guy too. Obviously, I'd love to work with you as well, but this guy kind of does what you're talking to me about, so very cool. Very, very cool. Sai says, I mean, it's my first stream here, so happy to still be a stranger for now. Yeah, come back for 2 more times and you'll be upgraded to art family. Phil says, I don't get the whole secrecy thing with techniques. It's a software program, not alchemy. Right? Oh, I agree 100%. Monkey said, so great map maker Gabrielle Pickard once said, your growth as an artist tends to match your growth as a teacher. Oh, that's beautiful. I can absolutely see that. And I really think I can credit a lot of my rapid growth to teaching pretty much right away. Patnate Prince says, some pretty awesome stuff. right? You also make some pretty awesome stuff, so. Maybe something I'll do is I'll change my pinned message here to just like, not a link tree, but like, I'll call it the art family, you know? And it'll be a link that has all the links of, because you guys have been hanging out a couple of times. I know it's only 2 or 3, but I've only live stream frequently 2 or 3 times. And I think it'd be nice just to have you guys pinned as well. Bill says, I did traditional sculpting for about 20 years. Wow, that's incredible. But digital for 3, so still a noob, learning every day. Aren't we all? You know, I didn't do a lot of traditional sculpting up front. I did a lot of 2D art, and as I mentioned before, I was untalented at it, which is okay. Some people click with things, some people don't. Okay, I have Chappelle Brown singing in my head, and it's making it hard to think. Love her music, total bop, but apparently I can't have music with lyrics and speak. I'm gonna go for my favorite playlist, which is Lo-Fi for Cats. The description's so silly. It's lo-fi beats made by cats for cats. That's what I listen to, in case you guys are wondering. That I also listen to the Skyrim soundtrack quite a bit. All right, it's rolling over. Any lurkers, creators, or lurkers alike, I encourage you guys to subscribe because this is a good time. And if you're feeling brave, drop a question. I am super transparent with my process. So yeah. All right, let's get this pose going. I've had enough taking a break. That was very nice. All right, she's gonna her left foot's gonna really have a strong step forward. Okay. I've been doing posing from the feet up and it's been helping a lot. I find it's difficult for me to balance the feet under shoulders, but I can balance the shoulders on top of feet, if that makes sense. Gosh, I'm talking so much faster, you can tell I'm getting excited and kind of... Live streaming is the first thing I do in the day, so I'm always a little sleepy in the beginning. You can like watch the coffee kick in as I live stream. Let's see, let me look at this really quick. Since I have so many creators in the stream, I want you guys to know what resource I use for a pose. I bought a bunch of packs from this artist called, oh goodness, they have this really nice little like read me note, but it doesn't advertise their own brand. You guys gotta advertise your stuff. And none of their images are watermarked either. 1 second, I'm trying to find them. I think it's called the Pose Archives, but they're awesome. And it's nice having a bunch of high quality poses to look at once. Yes, it's called the Pose Archives. There's some light NSFW stuff, not really, but just a heads up in case you're shy. But anyway, the Pose Archives, that's where I get a lot of my pose references recently, and they've just been a fantastic resource. I used to just like wander around Twitter and just hope I found a pose that I liked. I never copy the poses exactly, but I try to get as close as I can because it's nice to have photos of real bodies doing these poses. I really encourage you to be careful when looking at illustrations for pose references because a lot of times they're not possible, which is okay in an illustration. You can get away with it a little bit, but obviously if you're making a 3D model, it's not so forgiving. And you'll probably get a better eye for it as you look at references and you're gathering pose references. But in the beginning, I mean, I really couldn't tell what was or was not possible. So I'd start trying to look at my reference and make the pose into 3D. And I realized, I'm like, this is physically not possible. One of my favorites is like how your wrist bends. Let's make sure I'm on camera. Your wrist can bend this way, for example. It cannot bend the other way. And I definitely had some poses where that was kind of happening, but I didn't have a trained eye. So it took me a while to figure out why it looks so broken. Bill says, do you use Character Creator? I do not. I'm not totally sure what that is actually. I think that might be a software that my good friend Natalie from Ella's Arcanum uses because it sounds very familiar. If that's the one I'm thinking of, it doesn't run on Mac, and I use Mac iOS. I use ZBuilder from, I think his name is Gregory. I use that to help generate some base meshes, but I haven't used it in a really, really long time because I kind of got the base meshes I needed to make from it, and then I was done. Why are her legs so freakishly long? How did this happen? Monkey says, I mentioned that to you a few weeks ago. CC4, Real Illusion. Yeah, Character Creator 4. That is the one I'm thinking about. Yeah, it doesn't work on Mac, so I don't use it. But also, I don't think it would really help my workflow. That didn't sit well with me. I bet you it would help my workflow just fine. It's a really good tool. I guess better says, like, I guess I don't think, I'm not interested in it right now, and it's not an option for me because I don't have Windows. I mean, I do have a Windows computer right behind me. So I guess there is a workflow I could implement there. Oh, since we were complaining about Maxon buying Pixelogic, fun fact, my license disappeared. You guys gave me like paranoia looking, like talking about perpetual license. So like I logged in to make sure my license was still there. It's not. So if I were ever to uninstall the copy of ZBrush, I have no way to reinstall it, which kind of freaked me out. I'm currently talking to Maxon support about it. All right, we got a good strong stance right here, and now we're gonna put this weapon in her hand. Let's see, Sai says, is there a reason you moved to Mac? Yes, I hate Windows. I hate Windows and its constant updates and its constant crashing and its constant nonsense, and every time I log in and it's just Bing and all kinds of crap advertising at me all the time. It just, it drives me crazy. I installed Linux for a while there and I liked that better, but it didn't talk well with some of the programs I had to use. But pretty much no, it's just Windows driving me insane. Bill says, that's a shame. It's good for posing as you can freeze your animation and pose you like. That is cool. I don't use it often, but it can be useful. Taylor says, I bought Character Creator 4, but I could never get it working on my computer. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, the posing does seem really cool. I'm very skeptical of posing softwares, honestly. But that's just because I've used a few that I find it just ends up coming out better if I do it myself. And I actually got a lot better at posing because I started sculpting pinup models on the side, which I highly recommend. It's super, super fun. A lot of really good conversation today and questions, and I want you guys to know I really appreciate you. I just think this is the most fun thing, and the fact that I'm able to share it with lurkers, and I say lurkers and creators alike as if I don't have creators that are also lurkers. I've just noticed that creators tend to be a little chattier. But anyway, I just think y'all are the best, and thanks for being here and hanging out. I love having you part of the community. I really do. Monkey says, ZBrush is fantastic at everything but posing. Character Creator 4 is fantastic at only posing. Well said. Though I would argue, ZBrush is actually pretty good at posing if you use it for what it's good at. Like, Z-spheres actually work fantastic if you don't use it to have things that need to be weighted, like armor. Obviously, you need to have armor non-deformable. And the Z-spheres definitely take some getting used to. Monkey says, well, I suppose I do have some other plugins like that base thingy, but that's stupid expensive. It is. I did look at that for Character Creator, and I understand why it's so expensive. I do. I still think it's expensive. Oh yeah, and sad moment for me, who's probably gonna have to rebuy ZBrush again and get into subscription hell because my perpetual license has completely disappeared. I sent them a screenshot of my license key, because you can open it in ZBrush, but I don't know if that's gonna be enough like proof, because then I guess anyone could send an email from a random email if they had a license key. I mean, you know what, that should be fine. I hope they help me. By habit, I tried to reach out to Pixelogic first, and that takes you to a 404 page pretty much, so. I have to deal with Maxon, which sucks. They already email me about once a year at least. I have the same average marketing rep who just annoys me and asks me why I still haven't bought Maxon, and I tell her every time, I'm like, it's expensive and useless for my workflow. Maybe she'll help me. I doubt it. All right, guys, I'm crushing this pose the first time. This is looking really good. I like to do my posing in 2 stages, just like everything in sculpting. You know, you do it in a block out stage and then a refinement stage. So I like to think of this as my refinement stage, or refinement, my block out stage, and that helps me do larger movements. If you guys do struggle with posing, and because even if you have the best tool in the world, you know, you still have to be able to use it. I can always share more tips on that, and not because I'm a posing master, but because I've been bad at it for a long time. So I have all kinds of tips on what to do and what not to do. I used to dread posing, and now it's one of my favorite things. Like, I'm pretty impressed by myself on this. Like, I haven't been posing this for very long, y'all, and it's looking good. All right. Getting this all buttoned up. Taylor says she has very long arms. It's all part of the process. Trust the process. Fun fact, a good easy landmark for arms is that the fingertips should fall about halfway through the femur. Not always true, but somewhat true. I have really gangly limbs myself, so my fingertips fall a little farther past my femur bone, but it's still mostly accurate. Taylor says, or it just looks very long because of the knee bend and leg. It's a little bit of both. It definitely looks like her arm is falling like past her knee, but it's all part of the process. And yeah, I don't have perspective turned on either, so there's a couple things going on there. I'm gonna have to figure. I'm realizing now that the reference I have has a kind of a unique hand pose going on. I didn't think about that. Okay, I'll deal with that in a second. For now, we're gonna just throw the weapon in front of her and start seeing this pose I'm wanting. Probably should have it flipped. I think I'm gonna give her like a backwards grip, like the way you underhand grip like a dagger. Kind of funny. All right, that's a pretty good block out here on this pose. Has a really good forward motion. The head on the needle is way too big. I'll deal with that in just a moment. Overall, decently happy with it. So I think I'm gonna go T-pose, sub-T now, kind of clean this up a little bit, and then I'll do my final pose adjustments later. This is my favorite things to use Transpose Master for, is you just kind of, when it's like organic, simple transformations like this, I can just drag this down, make sure it's somewhat positioned, and scoot. Isn't that nice? Before or after. You'll want to make sure you do it like by muscle group though, otherwise it can get a little skewed in a different way. Her forearm got really long in that posing process. I'm not really sure why. No worry. Oh, it's probably because I pose kind of from her lower deltoid. That's why. And I was using the Transpose Master without, the Transpose line without rotate turned on. So it deformed the whole way when I rotated it. Yeah, I like that I have this string on here because I'm gonna be able to move that around and it's gonna really, like, you know, have a sense of gravity and direction. Oh, for y'all that use ZBrush, if you notice, like when you're trying to rotate and it's rotating like at a really weird pivot point in the middle of nowhere, all you have to do is draw a little mask on your model of wherever you want the pivot point to be, and that's what it will start pivoting around, even after you clear the mask. If you use ZBrush a lot, I know you know what I'm talking about, where it starts rotating like way up in the corner or something weird. All right, I like her belt, but I had it kind of sauntered to the right, but then I moved her right leg forward. So I'm actually gonna mirror it. I think it's gonna, yeah, see how much better that looks? Yeah, that's really where the direction's supposed to go. Very nice. Taylor says, that happens in every 3D program, right? I don't even know why, like, it's very sensitive. It's like, we're gonna start spinning out here. So right now, I'm just kind of making sure there's no weird clipping issues, pulling things out of this aside, that kind of stuff. Her leg is not quite in her hip socket. We'll fix that in a second. Taylor said, the pivot point issue. Ah, yes, there we go. That's a much more succinct way to say it. I knew ZBrush was gonna crash. I could feel it was like, you've gotten a lot done. It's about time. It's been about an hour. Doesn't bother me. My like hundreds of quick saves. I clear these out about once a week. I actually think I have a default one that'll cause it to clear. All right. I will drop another hard save too. All right. Let me make sure I have perspective on, and then, wow, ZBrush crashed again. That was really weird, actually. Let me look at my activity monitor. That's weird. It's not, like, it's unstable, but like, it's not that unstable. It doesn't crash ever if I'm not live streaming. pretty much. I might have it happen like once a week, but it gets a little sensitive when I live stream. Monkey says, I clear my quick saves every time I open ZBrush. Diligent. Diligent. Yeah, I don't see anything funny in my activity monitor, so I'll just chalk it up to a little weird quirk. All right, I'm gonna rotate everything together. You can do that by clicking on these little, this one bar to make it into 3 bars. And you can rotate the whole thing. Because now I'm gonna start working on what I consider like the alpha angle. Model should look good from all angles, but I will spend more time on one than the others. I think another skinnier belt would look nice right here. It's pretty normal that over time, the belts will kind of like float away from the body as you pose and stuff. So every now and then kind of smush them back. Being careful not to deform it too much, especially anything that's like a metal component like these belt buckles. Because if that looks like this, it's very obviously going to be wrong. As opposed to over here, I have a lot more leeway because it's an organic material. All right, this leg looks a little broken, and there's a few reasons for that. There we go, that's already looking better. Let's put her leg back in her hip socket, there we go. Right now I'm kind of playing with different positions I can have this big needle in. It's such an interesting weapon. And since she's really short, because she's a gnome, I can kind of play with what direction I'm going to have it as well, whether it's going to be pointing up or down. So I'm going to zoom out right now, kind of lean back in my chair, and I kind of look at the silhouette change. I like the reverse grip better. Up looks kind of silly. Specifically because it has that, it's, you know, directional. All right, let's go ahead and do a second run on this pose. Drop a quick save. And a hard save. There we are. Taylor says, is she supposed to be very small or is just the needle oversized? The needle's just really oversized. But that's fun to think that she's like this big. It's a little bit of both, you know, because she's a gnome, so she's only going to be like 3 feet tall, but she still is in fact feet tall. Many feet tall. Alright, so this is my second run through the pose. So this time I'm really looking to make it refined, make sure it's as dynamic as I can get it with my current skill level, all that kind of stuff. I want her leaning forward even more. So I'm gonna go right below her ribcage. Make sure my gizmo is centered on that pivot point and rotate her forward. There we go, getting a better line of action here. That helps a lot. Taylor said, I'd love to see you sculpt some winged fairies, like the ones in Cotton Leg Fairies Hoax. I don't think I've seen that before. Let me look that up really quick. I've sculpted some pretty cute fairies. I think you'd really like them. One of them I sculpted, I hadn't seen any before. They always have like smooth, straight hair. So I sculpted an African American fairy with like a big poofy like afro, and she is so cute. I'm looking up what you just said. Oh yeah, those are so cute. Oh, I love how playful the poses are. Those are really pretty. All right, I think this arm sticks out a little too far. I'm gonna tuck that in a little closer to the body. Now, I tend to like to add a little flick to the wrist, just to show like some tension in that arm. I feel very lucky that I get to do this for a living. I absolutely love what I do, and it's been a lot of fun to share it with you guys on live stream too. Anyone that just tuned in, I am sculpting a gnome barbarian with this oversized like knitting needle for a tabletop 3D printable miniature. And that's what I do. I've been doing this for, oh goodness, 5 years now? And every single model that I sculpt live is a request from someone. 9 times out of 10, it's a Patreon supporter. All legendary patrons can make a request every month, and I draw from those, and here we go. I say I draw from them, I sculpt them in order. I have a live request board on Google Drive that I share, and that way you can kind of know what I'm gonna sculpt next. pretty happy with this model. The refinement stage in the pose definitely helped a lot. One of the last things I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of give it a little tilt to her head, and that's going to help seal the deal here. Some more organic motion and small tweaks and details. Yeah, posing from the feet up has been very helpful for me. If I push that leg further forward, I could even touch the needle to her knee. It would require, it might work, but in case I'm worried about how stable the model's gonna be. I can still make this a lot thicker though. I'll go from the back side and pretty much double it, and then that way from most angles it still looks really thin and sleek. Taylor said, a thimble for a bucket cat could be cute. I would love to do that, but the requester mentioned like she's more like steampunk and like a berserker, but if she's like a little fairy, oh my god, a little thimble hat would kill me. That'd be so cute. Taylor says, you're right, it makes more sense if she was actually tiny. I still love that though. Really good idea. No, she's just fake tiny. She just has a weirdly big needle. Excuse me. Yeah, I need to put that knee farther out. Not even just for like a stability issue, it's just pose is stiff. Doing a little test with mask pen, just to make sure that these feet are lining up. This foot has gotten a little smushy. Looking really good from the front though. Taylor says, the needle is like a shepherd's crook. She just needs a herd of sheep around her. Oh my gosh. Also would be really cute. And like a bunch of them and like really fluffy, almost like spherical little sheeps. Sheepies. Sheepies is the official scientific term for mini sheep. Why does it not want to select this needle? Come on. There you go. And I'll adjust how this fits in her hand in a little bit. All right, let's see if I can get her head tilted in a way that's gonna soften up this pose a little bit. And if not, I'll do just a little bit more reworking of how her weight shifted. If it seems like I'm kind of stuck, then I might just make a mental note and to improve for the next one. I definitely like the intensity here though. Sai says, this is steampunk. You do D&D and you mentioned you previously modeled pinup, I think. What's your favorite style? And are there any genres you don't enjoy? I don't super enjoy like sci-fi and like tech, like proper like mech suits, but as I do them, get better at modeling, I am enjoying them most, but sci-fi by far is my least favorite. My absolute favorite is grimdark and horror. Mostly because I'm just good at it. Like, it's one of those things I picked up really quickly, and I'm really good at eerie and unsettling. I have one of my favorite models I've ever made was a blood hag. Someone gave me a really vague description of what they wanted, and so I was able to pretty much make a completely custom creature. I'm gonna pull up the picture of it right now, because I haven't sculpted anything like this on live stream before. There she is. All right, that's downloading right now. I'll be able to pull that up on stream real soon here. So yeah, this is a Eldritch Blood Hag. It's gonna take a second to show up because I need to change my window. Having a stroke. Let me see if this works. I can do window capture here. Oh, it's just being picky. Do my entire screen. It's just showing my settings right now. 1 second. There you go. Ah. Shut up for a second and then went away. Well, it looks like it's gonna be picky. I might have to troubleshoot this later. That's too bad. Yeah, OBS doesn't like showing both my entire window. It really likes showing my application exclusively. I'm gonna try one more try. If it doesn't work, I'll move on. Yeah, we're application only. Oh well. In the future, I'll find an easier way to share that kind of stuff with you guys. But anyway, I have an Eldritch Blood Hag I made that looks really, really cool. Pinup I mostly did because I was trying to improve my poses and anatomy, because pinup is exaggerated, right? It doesn't have to be super sexualized, over-sexualized and like crude, but it's fun to push those proportions like more, they're more like heroic proportions, so very long limbs, long neck, that kind of stuff. Sometimes steampunk gives me a hard time just because it feels arbitrary. It can look like a normal fantasy model with a couple gears tacked on. So it requires a little more extra thought for me still to really fit all of that together and make it read steampunk. This one's actually kind of pushing it. I feel like it's a little more pirate, but it could work well in either setting. Let's see if I can turn her head that way. I like that. I like that. Sorry, says, saw it, looked great. Thank you. Taylor asks, I've always thought of pinup as risque, trying to think of examples what you mean. Oh, no, yeah, it doesn't have to be. So people just label it pinup, but like pinup originally was a style that was really used to sell makeup to women, like in the 50s, like that kind of stuff. Think of like, oh, I'm trying to think of what her name is, but it was that war ad, you know, where she has like her arm, my camera, like really strong like this, like that silhouette, and yeah. But no, it definitely does not and should not be risque. That's why it frustrates me. I was like a completely nude model and like, it's pinup. I'm like, no, it's a little more like burlesque. Like that's not, which is also, again, fine, but that's not what it is. Think more old makeup ads. Since we're on the topic really quick and you guys are being a lot of fun, I think I have my latest pinup project saved on my computer right now, actually. So let me see if I can find it really, really quick just to show you guys. Because I know what you mean by risque. And the last one that I made was actually one of like the spicier ones I've made probably. And it's still not risque by any means. Here we go. This is the pinup model that I made. To me, this is pinup. It's beautiful. It focuses on her forms. Not a ton of clothes, you know what I mean? But these are the kind of pinup models that I make. It's a completely different style. And she's beautiful. I based this off of Eat Yourself, like the world tree. And yeah, I do have a version where it doesn't have this like wooden moss-like top. So that would be like my NSFW version. But again, like not trashy, not risque. Like I might not want it out, like print, I have them 3D printed. Like I might not want it like on my desk, like when my grandparents come over, it just kind of feels weird. But yeah, to me, this is pinup. This is the kind of work that I do. If you're interested in it, that brand is called Spicy Arts. But the main stuff I do on this channel is M3DM. Anyway. Let me scoot on back to this gnome I was working on. If this kind of stuff also interests you, I can live stream this as well. I never live stream this because again, it's kind of like a separate brand of what I work on. All right, back to my gnome. As you can tell, totally different style, much more tabletop, that kind of stuff. Couldn't resist sharing that though, because like once you said risque, like Taylor, I knew what you're talking about, and it's like that crude, like trashy pinup. I'm like, ah, it doesn't have to be that way. So yeah, that's my interpretation of it. And Monkey says, I hate the trope with everything steampunk is just add gears, right? And honestly, most people do a really good job, but there has to be something almost Victorian era-esque about it, and that's kind of what this model is missing a little bit. The boots are kind of help, but yeah. I'm a little limited based on the concept art that was provided to really get to what I would think is full steampunk. I'm trying to select the top, but it doesn't want to select. There we go. A good rule of thumb is if you ever have deformation where the body and the clothes are clipping, the body always wins. Don't deform the body. If you keep doing that, you end up with a really odd looking mesh. As you can imagine, I'm speaking from experience. I've done it many times. This model's pretty cool. I don't like that her shoulders are like perfectly flat, so I'm gonna see if maybe I can do a clever little mask here and tweak them just a little bit. If not, I'm really happy with the pose. But as of right now, I think that's the #1 thing that I could improve, so I'm gonna try to. Being careful to mask her arms because those are in fact connected to her shoulders. All right, let's see if I can de-stiff the pose a little bit. Kind of Put that center point in her core on her chest. And now we're gonna kind of play around with the rotation here. Yeah, I guess rotation isn't the issue, it's this axis, x-axis. In the reference, it's like this. And it's facing on this angle, kind of pushing forward. I'm not sure if I want that. Taylor says, yes, live stream the pinup ones too. Variety is welcome. I'm glad that you like it too. Especially because, like, it doesn't have to be trashy, you know? My most recent pinup project I did was a vampire bride. I named her Victoria. She looks awesome. That's another thing I like to do. I name all my pinups. I just think it's important. It is funny though, because like I've done so many where obviously like I meet people with the same names, and it's funny, like I have like Mabel, Victoria, Rose. They're not super common names, but when I do meet people, I'm like, that's funny. Like I've met quite a few Jasmines. We're just about done here, and like always, I'm going to be sharing these 3 printable files with you guys for free if you wanted to print them yourself. If you're watching this in the future and it's not live, you will still be able, you can get these prints, or not prints, the files, plus 800 other ones on patreon.com/m3dm, and I have that as the pinned comment. Awesome, she looks great. That's a really big improvement from the rough draft pose that I had too. She's kind of got a funny thing going on with her boobs right now, so we will adjust, make sure those are still fitting onto her rib cage. And that's because when I posed, I moved her collarbone and stuff without grabbing a little lower on her sternum. And I knew that would happen, but it's not too hard to fix. I'm gonna tuck her shoulder back a little bit. This is one of the reasons why I do like live streaming, because it forces me to talk about my process more, and it does result in slightly better poses because I'm just a little more aware of what I'm doing. Everything ends up a little more intentional. This hand ended up really small. We're gonna make that hand a little bigger, especially because she's a gnome. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Sai says, when you say, quote, pinup is different project, do you mean a different channel on Patreon? Yeah, you're right. So that is, sorry, I saw my husband's comment and it distracted me because he's just, love him. Anyway, that's a completely different brand. I don't have a Patreon for it, but I sell my spicy arts projects on Kickstarter and my mini factory. So yeah. The reason why it's separate entirely is because it's kind of different from this brand, and it was a secret for a few years. I was very shy about it, even though it wasn't trashy. I just didn't tell anyone about it for a few years. I only recently told my main following, M3DM, that Spicy Arts is actually me, which is super funny and embarrassing because on one of my Spicy Arts Kickstarter projects, I signed off one of the updates as Mia K from M3DM out of habit. Whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but my lovely husband says, wow, this looks great. How do you do this in just 3 hours? You're the best. You're a sweetheart. Thank you. I'm very proud of it too. So for the most part, I always mention like you need to be your own biggest fan to succeed as an artist. And I really believe that. Obviously you can be critical of your own work, but don't be too critical. My husband has always been a supporter of my work, and it's been very helpful because I'll tell you what, I had some models in the beginning that I like would get so frustrated over I would cry. Not frequently, to be clear. This only happened like once or twice in the very, very beginning. When I wasn't selling stuff, it was fine, but once I started to like make a living off of it, you know, the pressure increases a lot. So yeah, there was like a meltdown or two over an owl bear of all things. Owl bears look kind of dumb. Like they're really cool, but they're also a little goofy looking inherently. I think the owl bear from Baldur's Gate 3 are incredible. Like that's what I think they should look like. And that's what I strive towards. But at the time I didn't know that. I didn't know what my style was, so I just struggled and I had a little hard time. And I'll get faster as I live stream with y'all more often too. Usually this model would take me like 2 hours. Live streaming makes me about 30% slower. But it's absolutely worth it. I love being able to look back on it, and the big thing is like, it's for my students at this point. It's already helped me so much when my students are like, hey, how do you do this? And I'm like, bam, I have a real-time demonstration of me doing it. For a practical project, like it's so much better than just having like no frame of reference. The fact that I actually get more than like 2 viewers, it makes my entire day too. Like I'm just digging this little art party we're having. Ah, she's so cool looking. I want to make her look a little angrier, little spicier. Reminder that if you're hanging out and have a good time, subscribe. That way you get notified when I do go live. Though I am very consistent, I live stream Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I paused there because this week I'm not live streaming on Thursday, Friday because Dragon Age Veilguard's coming out, which is a national holiday. I used to hate the transpose line, and now I like can't live without it. She's back, or has been here the whole time. That's a neat question. Do you have any tip to who wants to start in 3D modeling as a hobby? Well, I recommend downloading the free trial of, I think it's ZBrush Core Mini. And it's always, ZBrush Core Mini is always free. Just play around with it, it has some brushes, there's no subtools. It's just fun to play with. If you think it's any fun at all, maybe watch a tutorial or two, kind of learn some more basics. And then if you want to get even better to where you can make your own characters like this, a 3D print or whatever, I highly, highly recommend setting like some sort of goal where you sculpt for like 5 minutes a day. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it'll really help you get in the habit and you'll progress pretty quickly. But yeah, my recommendation would be ZBrush Core Mini. It is free. You can kind of play around with it, see if it's something that clicks with you at all. If you don't like it, no harm done because it's not a subscription. It's always free and you can kind of test the water, so to speak. Blender is also free and super robust, but it's also super confusing and really intimidating if you're brand new to 3D. So I wouldn't recommend that for someone who's just dipping in as a hobby. And if you did want to elevate your skill set a little bit or want help or a guide, I teach. It's a slightly different Patreon. It's M3DM Learn, as in like learning in school. And yeah, I have about 15 mentorship students right now, and I have videos that they're not public. I have videos I've uploaded to YouTube that break down everything, like how to save a file, how to use a brush, all that kind of stuff. And then I instruct my students to watch these videos plus tailored assignments to specifically what they're going to learn and grow. I think my mentorship is $30 a month. I can't remember. I don't check it very, like obviously I don't check my price points very often. I just, anyway, I also teach. I actually had I don't do this super often, but I had a student that had a bunch of questions, super well concise questions. And so I actually did a video call with him on Discord on Saturday morning. It was only 20 minutes. We hashed through all of his questions and it was super productive and helpful for both of us. I like when my students have a bunch of questions like that because I know what topics, what topics to cover. It's very rare that I have a question from a student that 5 other students don't also have. It's pretty normal to have the same questions. Which also makes my life as a teacher a lot easier. My teaching has taken a little bit more of the backseat. I really haven't advertised it until I started live streaming again. And that's because ZBrush started getting kind of expensive, and to get the full version of ZBrush, it also includes ZBrush for iPad. I think it's $40 a month now. I don't know, I just feel like that's so expensive. And if you're also paying for my mentorship, I mean, it just seems like a lot. But I realize, I mean, if you have a budget for your hobby, it's probably not that big of a deal. I try to be really conscientious of that because everyone's financial situation is different. I hope that answered your questions. If you have any others, let me know. I would just reinforce that 3D is a whole new animal, so try to give yourself a lot of grace and don't get too frustrated. Just do a little bit each day. My goal for the longest time was just to open ZBrush every day, and I am so serious about that. Some days I would open ZBrush and just close it immediately if I felt good that I still reached my goal. But most days I would play around a little bit, and just like those 5 minutes at a time of experimenting helped a lot. I see a lot of people fail in 3D because they'll sit down at their computer, they don't know how to use the software, and their first goal is like sculpt a character, and I'm like, whoa, that's insane. Let's set a more realistic goal. Your goal should be like, I'm gonna learn how to use, or I'm gonna not even learn, I'm gonna get a little better at using one brush. That's a good goal. That's a good daily goal. Goal setting is huge when you're learning something new, to not get frustrated. I used to be a terrible student and a terrible learner. I was always good at school, but I had a terrible attitude though. I've improved immensely. And I say a terrible attitude, like I tried really hard, but I'd get frustrated, like the first little thing that would go wrong, because I was kind of used to picking things up quickly. So when I didn't, which is totally normal, I would just get frustrated. But I'm not like that anymore. It's taken years to unlearn. She says, perfect, thank you so much. I'm trying to model some 3D terrain, but modeling a character should be amazing. That'd be really cool. I love making terrain too, oh my goodness. Terrain is really fun, and it's a lot faster, depending on what you're doing obviously, but I find it's a lot faster. Oh, she looks cool. All right, let's make her face a little less deadpan, and then she'll be finished. Monkey says, day 1 goal. I'm going to sculpt 6 models, an entire cave scene, and make it all ready for game dev at 3D printing. That's realistic, right? Right? Yes, that is very realistic. For Monkey, because you're great. But no, that'd be a nightmare. Oh my gosh, even you just saying that, I'm like, that'd be so stressful. And it's fun to joke about, but like, seriously, I have students that are like that, and I'm like, ooh, you really need to, no. So many people that tune into this live stream are interested in learning, and it's making me think of something that I can make for y'all that's a step down from a full mentorship, but just so you can like dip your toe in and have some guidance, because it's so much more fun when someone's taken a lot of like the busy work out of it. The whole reason that I started teaching was because I was so annoyed at the YouTube tutorials that were out there. There are good ones, to be clear. But most of them were so terrible that I started making my own lessons once so I could rewatch them later, which I still do. If I like array mesh, I will watch my own tutorial on how to use array mesh because I just forget immediately. Yeah, I just want to create the teaching resources out there that I wish that I had had. And I couldn't afford like a real mentorship. Real mentorships from like professional, like I'm a professional 3D artist, but I mostly work in the tabletop space. I don't work in like the game dev space. Artists that do that, their mentorship programs are like $700 a month. Like, cannot afford that. She says, congratulations for your work. It's really impressive, all these details. Thank you, I really appreciate it. And Taylor says, no, honey, no. There, kind of give her a little bit more of a smirk, a little more mischievous. Also, she is a gnome, so I love giving them a big round nose. I love noses. How cute is that nose? Goodness. Let's make it bigger. More nose. Fixing a couple little anatomy issues here. She's not so muscular where this should be so pronounced, so also making sure that connects to the top of her collarbone. See, this is why I love posing. Like, look at the difference between like this little stamp I have right here versus her pose. Like, all of that personality starts coming through, and it's really cool. Like always, thank you guys for hanging out. This has been a blast. And a few new names, which I love seeing that. Elbows looking awfully pointy. But again, we do not talk about elbows in this live stream. This channel is a no elbow zone. Nope. Nope. That's good enough. Hate elbows. Thinking that maybe those straps, like my little strap sock, should be on this leg instead. Nah, that's fine. It can be a small detail back there. That looks good too. All right, y'all. We're about ready to get post-processing. Post-processing is all the steps that I do to make this 3D print ready. That involves closing up any little weird gaps, thickening assets that need to be larger, and merging all these subtools into one watertight mesh. There's a lot of ways to do this. I usually merge and then remesh by union and then decimate at the end. I love that I was able to get this needle touching the mesh at 2 points. It's in her fist and it's on her knee. That will make it a lot more stable and a lot more usable. Looking good. All right. Let's get her post-processing. First, I'm going to delete these T-pose because I don't need them anymore. Just spin her around, make sure everything's looking good. I'm going to turn off perspective, check that her feet are on the same plane, and do a slow rotate. Make sure there's nothing really weird going on. Yeah, she looks awesome. All right. And like usual, I will post-process from the top down. So let's start with her hair. So I merge everything down, I remesh by union, and then I do little auto groups to make sure there's no weird artifacts in the center. Looking good. Spin this hairstyle around. See if I need to add any thickness in these pieces. Looking good. Next, I will add her eyes and the entire body, which I know will have an artifact because this base mesh has a hole for the mouth, like a little, they call it a mouth flap. So you'll see me mesh that out. Sai asked, do you do your own supports too? Yes. A few years ago, I taught my husband how to do it. So he is the 3D print and support man. But yeah, he does all the supports. There's that mouth flap I was talking about. In Chichi Box, yeah. We do different slicers over the years. We're currently using Chichi Box. And every single model you see on that I stream, I print every single one of them in tabletop scale. So this model's gonna get printed this big. And we do that because we do nice promotional content with those printed pictures. We also include the renders, but it's really about the printed picture. We're really serious about getting our stuff printed. I think it adds a lot of credibility to the types of models that I make. The whole point is I specialize for 3D printing, so might as well 3D print them. This is going very smooth. As a rule of thumb, the more subtools I have, the longer it takes to post-process. Looking good. This shirt is a million points just by itself, so I'm going to post-process this individually before I merge this onto the body. My voice is so raspy today, I feel like, or at least for me. Because I'm chatting so much. Also, if I talk anywhere like lower than my normal register, it just goes straight into rasp. Reminder that I'll be live streaming again tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. EST. I'll have a fresh coffee and a fresh model. You can either memorize my schedule if you want to hang out again or subscribe. I find subscribing a lot easier, but honestly, to each their own. I have a couple creators that I follow that I have followed them for years, and it takes me legit a couple years in from oh, I never even subscribed to them, but they show up and recommended and I see all their new videos still, so I'm part of the problem. That's one thing that's kind of funny about being like a content creator, I guess, if you will. I also like follow artists and like consume content. So it's kind of funny like saying these things. I've heard all these other streamers, YouTubers say like, oh, like subscribe and click the bell or whatever. You'll never hear me say click the bell. A part of me dies inside saying that. It's a necessary part of it, but it still feels kind of silly to say. All right, this is looking really good. I'm going to mesh the belt by itself because there's a lot going on here. And then I'm just gonna quickly merge all the rest of it together because I think it's not gonna pose any problems. Fingers crossed. Ooh, that gun has some funniness going on. Okay, good. That was just a deformed polygon. It wasn't actually a mesh error. Yeah, that looks really weird. But I smoothed it all and it looks better, so we're fine. I appreciate all you guys sharing the projects you were working on earlier. I hope those are all going well still. And if not, there's always tomorrow. It took me a long time to realize that days where I accomplish less, like I have less deliverables, doesn't necessarily mean it was a less productive or worse day. Like it's a necessary evil, if you will. Sometimes some days are just slow. It's all part of it. Almost done. Monkey says, 10 people in here right now and only 1 like on the video. Let's get me a few likes. You're very sweet. I think that helps with other people seeing it. I think that's what it does, like functionally on YouTube. Either way, I don't mind, but I appreciate it. It boosts my stats. Business, business. Meditating Monkey also has his own art business, so he knows the drill. He gets the shtick. I appreciate him. Alright, my hair is totally dry at this point. Alrighty. Such an overcast day. It's been nice. But it's been so much more humid that it takes like hours for my hair to dry. I could blow dry it, but yeah. I'm gonna zoom in here so as I decimate, I'm careful not to lose any details. Monkey says, it's all part of the algorithm, and I absolutely hate algorithms, but it's a necessary evil, kind of like spelling. I like that comparison, that's fun. Ricky says, 20 likes and me able to do a backflip on camera. I cannot do a backflip. Bill says, I like that listening makes me feel like I'm working with others. Makes the job less solitary. That's exactly why I like to not only live stream, but I have other creator live streams on usually when I'm working. And that's, you know, it is kind of tricky. So being an artist, it is like a largely solitary endeavor. And growing up, again, I always considered myself more of a musician. I'm a classically trained pianist, and even though I didn't play with other musicians frequently, like I could, you know? With artists, it's like maybe we'll both do our own piece of art and like collaborate and like share pieces of it. But at the end of the day, like it's still a solitary thing. So I know what you're talking about. I'm glad that hanging out here makes it a little more fun. Luckily, I'm a pretty solitary person. I really enjoy spending time alone. But that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy doing this too. In college, I had to be careful that I did like schedule time where I hung out with other people. All right, this model's looking real good. Time to get her into my finished ZBrush. There we go, flatten the feet. Copy the tool, and now I'm going to open my ZBrush that's labeled End. There it is. Paste that tool, append into my other one that has like my, pretty much like my reference sizes of how big this is going to be. There we are. And again, she's a gnome, so she's going to be pretty short. God, she looks awesome. I love this. I have a bunch of bases that I've already made over the years, kind of have those in an asset library, and let's go ahead and pick one. There we go. I think this wood dock base looks really nice. All right, make sure we're all merged. I kind of check from the top. Make sure she's mostly centered. I don't always have them perfectly centered, but I try to make it intentional. All right, she's looking good. That's a really strong pose. I do my final merging and checks in Mesh Mixer of all things, which is really funny to me because it's not like supported anymore. There we go. Fell out of edit mode for the first time in, goodness, very long time. Alrighty. All right, almost done getting this put together here, and then I'll be sharing this file with y'all for free. I only do that on live streams. If you're watching this in the future, that link is no longer going to be active. But if you do want this model, plus 800 others, you can support me on Patreon. All of these are 3D printable. And they're rescalable. You can have them at whatever scale that you want. All right, we unfortunately have a pretty weird error going on around that treasure chest of all things. No worry. I actually haven't had this happen in a while, so I'm glad it's on live stream. It's a teaching moment. So there was some weirdness going on right under this treasure chest. So I can kind of zoom in and we're going to see if I can find the problem spot. Oh yeah, you can see it. So there's a hole right there and there's a hole right there. Really, it's right here. There's this really weird mesh error going on. Something I can do is I can just polygroup them and delete all those weird holes and remesh. That doesn't always work. Obviously, if you have a bunch of sculptural detail here, you'd be losing it. But in this case, no issues. I'm gonna go ahead and pin her up here for anyone joining the stream so they don't just join the stream and just see gnome butt. It's not that kind of stream. All right, right, that cleaned up really nicely. Let's see if there's any other errors going on, any other weirdness. Yeah, this little treasure chest is kind of being a pain, isn't it? I think I remember that, and I just forgot to Dynamesh it first. That would have fixed this. Not a big deal. Sai says the universe is in there. That's right. That's exactly why it's being a pain. Duh. I'm gonna think that every time I use that asset now. It's still throwing an error of some sort. What are you mad about now? The hair is pretty complicated. I wouldn't be surprised. So the reason I'm smoothing right now is because I'll see holes like present and tear themselves apart sometimes. Specifically if you have your smooth modifier brush to min connected points 1. Otherwise, it won't show it at all. Alrighty, let's try this out. I predict there'll be one more thing I need to fix, and third time will be a charm. Yeah, we have one really angry spot, which is really funny to me. Right on the top of her shirt. That'll be really easy to fix if this doesn't already fix it itself. Yeah, that seems like it cleaned it up just fine. Sometimes I don't trust Mesh Mixer though. It'll say it fixed something, but it didn't. So I will just export it again and re-import it and see if it's happy with that. All right, we are almost done. And then yeah, doing the stuff on Mesh Mixer won't show up on your guys' screen because it's only wanting to share ZBrush and be stable. But luckily I'm not gonna be in this for very long. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, feel free. This is definitely more of like a brain dead part of 3D printing. Perfect, no errors. Very good. So I especially have the brain capacity to chat with y'all. Since I just finished this file, I won't be sharing the pre-supported because obviously I haven't printed it yet. But I will share the unsupported versions with y'all right now. And if you do want the pre-supported versions, y'all know where to go. It's on my Patreon. I'll go ahead and get that link shared with you. I accidentally left my own like YouTube stream. Like I wasn't sure if I had to have that menu up. Turns out you don't. I just jumped off of it and I'm like, did I just break my stream? Nope, we're fine. All right, those files are uploading right now and I'm gonna drop that link for y'all in the chat really soon. Just kind of thank you for you guys for hanging out. Okay, free download link that's up and live right now. So in theory, if you follow enough live streams and you know how to pre-support your own stuff, you could be getting a pretty good deal. Just a small time commitment. All right, gonna do my screenshots that I use to share with everyone else. I didn't like that initial angle I did. Let's try again. That's better. Yeah, this model has a ton of detail going on. I like it. Looks good. Oh, goodness. My window just dropped down, so it just screenshotted this little menu. There we go. And one more for good measure. Tip to my creators, I find that including your UI makes for a more interesting image. All right, we're all set. That is a wrap. All right, well, I had a super good time. I'm glad that this model came out. The last two have been kind of like easy breezy, and that's always a good time. I'm not sure which one I'm working on next, but I'll have something brand new for y'all tomorrow, start to finish like usual. Hope you guys have a really good day. For all my creators who are hanging out in the chat, don't work too hard. Make sure to take breaks. I'm gonna stop right now, and it's 2:30, so it's time for a bit of a late lunch. And yeah, if you had a good time, I really encourage you to subscribe. If you want to support the stream, I have a pinned comment on Patreon. And if you want to decide what I sculpt on the next stream, you can do that. Legendary patrons can make one request every single month. And I accept every single request. If I don't accept your request, I'll tell you why. And usually it's because people ask for stuff I don't do. They'll be like, can you make a tank? And I'm like, no, I don't sculpt military tanks. I sculpt tabletop fantasy. That doesn't void your request. Then you just make a new one. So no matter what, you'll get a request then. Thank you guys so much. It's been a really, really good time. I'm gonna check the chat really quick, make sure I'm not missing any last questions. Looks like we're all good to go. Okay, I'll leave this up for a little bit so you can grab those free downloads, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m.